where we just play games. Today we are jumping back into our Atlas Wildlife Park, and I just want to say I was really focused on making some rain shelter for everybody. When I logged off last, I noticed that it was just constantly raining, like for days at a time in game. And as I logged back in, it was just doing the same thing. So not only was I just adding some shade structure here, or not shade structure, but rain structure, I was really kind of focused on making sure this was as pretty as I could get it, because I'm a little paranoid about how not aesthetically pleasing this is at the beginning. And I kept having to remind myself, it's franchise mode. We will edit everything later. So for right now, we're just making these kind of as pretty as I can get them, but totally necessary rain structures for the tapir habitat. I was struggling with this point here, just making sure everything lined up, and I think halfway through this I realized that I could have used other pieces, but whatever. Alright, so I have a plan here with the emu. I want to put the emu habitat behind the eating area that I have, because ultimately I'm hoping to open this up, sink it down a little bit to possibly potentially be like a restaurant area that you can like overlook the emu habitat. The emus are also really cool because they have a lot of bonuses with other animals, and I think in the end I ended up choosing the wallaby. So join me. I'm moving around the trees a little bit. I want to make sure that everything stays as pretty, and I think about this point I was realizing it was really dark, so I ended up waiting for daytime to keep editing, just so everybody could see things a little better, because I totally blanked on needing daytime to make it look okay. I'm just kind of new to the recording thing, so I'm really trying my best to make sure that the viewers can enjoy the build as much as I enjoy the build. I want you guys to be immersed in this as much as possible. And so I'll kind of explain on the way thought process is. So I actually ended up redoing this habitat off camera a couple of times, and even in sandbox mode, because I was so frustrated with the beginning of it. But again, like I'm going to say a million times, it's franchise mode. This is going to change later when we have some more cash. Right now we're just trying to get people into the park. And right here, oh my gosh, you guys, I was struggling so much. I was really playing with the idea of not making this a circle, because I was like, I've used so many of them, everybody's gonna get tired of seeing them, but I couldn't get the curve to work for me at all. In fact, I couldn't get a lot of things in this habitat to work for me at all. And ultimately, I was so frustrated with this. It just made me feel like I was not to the standards I wanted, but we're not here to quit, we're here to keep going. So I think you're gonna see the very first gate or type of fence that I put down, and it's like the ugliest thing you've ever seen. It makes me look like, you know, when you first start playing Sims, you always make your giant mansions that have like 17 rooms, and then you're like, what do I need each of these rooms for? That's kind of how I felt about this. It made me feel like I haven't been playing this game since like 2020. 2022? No, I think it was 2021. I love this game, you guys, and so when I don't have something to my standard, I get so frustrated, and then I'm like, what am I doing? You know what's funny? I was just looking. I only have like 285 hours on Planet Zoo, and that feels wrong, but then I look and then I realized that I think when me and my husband got married and we merged accounts, something happened and I ended up having to re-download and purchase a lot of my games again. Because if I'm looking, like the Elder Scrolls Skyrim only have 86 hours. There's no way. There's no way, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, anybody else have problems with Steam? I know I'm having trouble with my Sims right now. Like with my Sims 3, it wasn't like online or monitored, so I have thousands of hours clocked with that. But Sims 4, they monitor that, which is really cool in the EA app. I was like seeing that, and then I'm like, oh my god, all the time I've wasted playing video games. But I love them, you know? I have like 2,000 hours clocked on Sims 4, and just realizing that makes me feel like I do nothing with my life. Oh god, just looking at this, you guys. Do you see how ugly this is? I really should have tried terrain painting before placing the animals, but I'm really picky. I like to drop them in and then make sure everything is to their like. I know a lot of people are really, really good about pre-planning like their exhibits, and they get everything created and they're so good about it. Like, I can only wish to be that good where I'm like, oh, I know exactly what this animal will like. I don't. I will be straight up with you. Like, if you'll see, I'm playing around with placing things. If they're red, I'm like, crap, I can't use that. And I was struggling with the emu habitat. Realizing that they only liked a certain couple of trees was really frustrating, but we're gonna make it work. I wasn't a big fan of these trees, though. I don't like them. I don't feel like they're gonna vibe with what I'm wanting. But actually, at the end of the day, I think I'm gonna open up this side of the park. Like, when you walk in, this is technically to the right. And with that in mind, I could make the desert, grassland species kind of on this side of the park. And so, in a way, where this build wasn't my favorite to start off with, I do feel like it kind of gave me an idea of where we're gonna go with the park, like layout wise. You know, I might take some safari animals, not safari, savanna animals on this side, just to kind of reiterate this is like the desert, grassland. Maybe I'll download the Australia pack. I've seen some really cool Australia zoo builds, and off the top of my head, I wish I could remember like the best ones that I've seen ever. And oh my gosh, you guys, I might have to YouTube this in the middle of recording, because when I tell you, it was stunning. This guy, he made like he had one modern build in the middle of his Australia zoo build, and it was this like white curved underwater viewing, and I think it was a platypus. And it was, oh my gosh, I gotta figure out who they were so that I can be like, shout out to whoever made it. It was ZSH Plays. Guys, I feel so embarrassed. It took me forever to figure out who it was because I subscribed to their channel, but it's the San Bernardino Zoo. The San Bernardino Zoo by ZSH is one of his most stunning zoos in my opinion. I love the entryway. I love the entry with the buses. And if you haven't checked out his channel, which I'd be shocked if you haven't, and you've somehow found mine first, go check it out. He makes amazing Planet Zoo content. Alright, so at this point in my build, I was beginning to realize that I should have been more proactive about making money. And you would think that that would be one of the things that's like, oh, like that's an obvious thing. But yeah, no. Absolutely, I think I made the wrong choice with the tapir, and I know I kind of mentioned it earlier in the series as well, but it just wasn't a popular animal. I should have paid more attention to their popularity when choosing the first kiddo in my zoo, but I did not. So, as a builder, I'm learning as we go. I think that it is just something that I will get better at in the future. But at least I got my emus a friend. You know, because one of the things that I'm realizing is that the emus and the wallabies can be interspecies mingling, and it helps with their enrichment. In real life, I'm curious if this is a thing. Like, do they have... I know I should know better, but where I live, there's like ostriches farms. I've never seen an emu, but I wouldn't be surprised if wallabies and emus actually live together in the wild. Like, that seems like something that would be a thing, because they seem like both desert dwelling kiddos, they're giving Australia. Oh my goodness, you guys, that's probably the funniest thing I've said all day. Yep, that's as popular as I get. But you can see I really struggled here. I realized that the rock work was gonna have to be sheer cliff, and I probably should have noticed it sooner, but I didn't. One of the things that this inspired later on was just doing a complete rock fence, and that was after I was financially in the negative. I definitely started deleting everything again because I was running low. Everybody was mad about my ticket prices and the size of my zoo, and I was starting to realize that even marketing wasn't going to get me anywhere. And you can see the minute I start marketing, my money crashes. Oh my god. Well, I mean, this wasn't a very good financial choice either, but trying my best, and again, me not paying attention to popularity, probably should have. But for right now, not an issue. We will figure that out as we go. I think my biggest thing with these little tiny education boards is they're not very pretty to look at, and I do think that in the future I'll probably make a reptile house. That is one of my plans that I have for this zoo, is a big reptile house, maybe a walk-through enclosure with some butterflies or maybe a sloth, and then just entering into a big reptile house. But again, everything's changing because I hate this fence and I can't stand it. So this is where I start building that rock fence, because I realize, oh, if you look at my finances, you'll see that we're at 17 grand right now, and that is because this is when I took my loan out. Yay, we have money. It's because I spent too much on my tapir habitat and completely screwed myself over with not choosing a more popular animal. I kind of hate this rock wall, but again, I think it's better than what I had before, and I think it works. I think the reason I am not a big fan of it is because I just use the same rock over and over and over again. If you guys are not new to my channel, you'll know in my previous Desert Botanical Zoo, I talk about trying my best not to repeat rocks, but I think in this series right now, it's just all about finances. So whatever works, whatever I can get in there, whatever I can make to look smooth, cohesive, I'm using. Just to kind of keep the height needed. I also ran into an issue at the edge of this map, and one thing I realized is that I played a lot of sandbox when I first started, so in sandbox I feel like I can go over that edge, but in franchise mode it is a hard no, my friends. You cannot go over that line. So you'll see when placing a couple of these rocks, it's red, like even just pushing it back a little bit. In that tree, if the branches on top go over, you can't put it there. So I'm just kind of struggling. Again, not a big fan of this tree. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I do think it's different. Like, it's not something I'm used to seeing. And so, for that, get some credit for being unique. We'll call it unique. And here I am just being a little picky again with some of the placement of the trees, just so I can try to get my pathing correct. And overall, I'm not happy with the pathing, because later on in this series, and I think later in this episode, you'll see where this kind of ended up biting me in the butt. And it just, oh my goodness, you guys, I'm just not happy with this. And ultimately, I do think in maybe episode 3 or 4, I will be trying my best to redo this habitat, mostly to have my idea of doing the restaurant, so that I can try to get some enrichment on this side, and some guest enrichment on this side of the zoo. I think the guest enrichment will be handled ultimately with the restaurant that I plan to put here. I'm planning to lift this ground up a little bit. You can see in the background there's a mountain over there. I do plan on kind of bringing that level over here, so we're looking down into this huge habitat. Maybe I'll make it bigger, make it like a huge savanna area with a lot of species in it, make this pond a little bit bigger, maybe bring a waterfall in. But again, like you'll hear me say 100 times, you guys, this is franchise mode, so we have space to build later. When we get more funds, we get more people in here, start making a lot of money, you're probably going to see me redo a couple of these habitats over the series, just to make sure that they are the best that they can be. I ultimately want to also redo this entire area for like their restaurant. You'll see like just my little rain barriers for my employees and such, like in the right of the screen, but oh no boy, that is not staying. But I do think I'm gonna keep the idea of having that be the more central area for all of the food and drink stands. I might add 1 or 2 more to that area, and then have that kind of be like the main walk-in, bam, you get to eat right in the door. But it just needs a revamp. I'm not a big fan. Alright, let's talk about the next kiddo we're gonna put in here. It took me a minute, and I actually just thought back to my other zoo, my Desert Botanical Zoo. One of the first kiddos I put in there was an Aardvark.
and I love them. I don't know why. I just think they're like the cutest little mix between like a capybara and a pig and a greyhound. And none of that makes sense, but they're so funky looking, and their habitat requirements are really small. They're also a really affordable kiddo. I mean, I guess when you're thinking in the long run, they are about $1,500 to $1,700 each, but that's pretty affordable when we're talking I only need one or two because they're interspecies, or they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Like their group size is really small. I do cheat a little bit here. I was planning on putting this big barrier down, and this is one of my blueprints, my personal ones that I just love. I just think it's beautiful. And I think I did put it down, realized how much it actually is, and went, oh no, we're not doing that. So I made a custom fence here, and I ended up taking it in that circular shape, because I just think that those circle enclosures are gorgeous. But I wanted to keep it really rustic with the theme of the zoo, so you're gonna see a lot of wood, like these like thicker wood panels here, and it looked really good. And I was really trying to keep it like a good size for viewing over for kids. I'm a mom myself, so I always try my best when I'm building, like, to think realistically, where are the kids at? You know, like, where are they gonna get blinded by this and just stare at a wall and not be super realistic? But my favorite part about building these kind of things, you guys, is just when I throw them in a circle. It's so fun. It's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like peeling that film off of any appliance that you get for the first time. Very soothing. Or popping bubble wrap. Watch, some people not like that, but it's one of those self-satisfying moments where I'm like, and it lines up, and look at this. Look how close it was to being almost perfect, you guys. Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much, and I just, bam, right in there. I ended up just being able to just smooth that over. It looked great. Oh, I was so satisfied even watching it now. I'm just so happy that it turned out the way it did. Yep, and then just editing the path so it makes a little bit more sense. Not too mad about the way the path looks. Ultimately, I think it's a good setup for the future. I love throwing up these little knoll barriers, and I like that when you set them up like this, you can kind of see when they overlap and go into the habitat a little bit, and then that way you can make sure it's not too crazy. Just some minor changes here, nothing crazy. Don't have to change too much of this. Just thankfully moving that over a little bit and fixed it right up. Look at that, you guys. Oh my goodness, it couldn't have been better if I tried. I ended up just kind of moving it around a little bit. I may actually end up moving this habitat further away from the pathing there for the guests. One of the things that I've been watching, and I know I said his name wrong earlier, but ZSH Plays, he actually was commenting on one of his videos that I was watching earlier this week about putting decorations between these smaller habitats and the path, and that gives the guests something more realistic to look at, because, you know, it's a good point to make. You want to create that barrier before the actual gate of the habitat, because it's not a petting zoo. I'm not creating a petting zoo here. I don't want guests in a realistic setting. They would be able to lean over and touch them, and that's unfortunately not what I'm looking for with aardvarks. For the aardvarks, I'm wanting to kind of give them that space to be in their home and feeling safe and secured. That's why I'm giving them this little home here too. I think it's a good viewpoint for the guests to kind of get a more homey look at them in their natural habitat. But again, gate's a little bit too, not gate, the barrier's a little too close to the guest path, so I will be adjusting that in the future when I have the chance to. But again, those are plans for later, Jessie, and right now Jessie just needs more people in my zoo to make some money. But really, you guys, when it comes to this shading here with the wood beams, one of the thoughts that I'm having is like putting a piece of glass between it so it can still count as a rain barrier. And I may end up taking the wood here and covering that path like I had previously done. Again, if you haven't seen my other video and you're like, what are you talking about? I highly recommend you go follow my page, go like and comment, subscribe, but go look at my desert botanical garden. That is kind of a pre-existing zoo that I have, but I get a lot of my inspiration as far as like my Spanish style building that I'm just a fan of in general. Like my dream home would probably be a Spanish style, like a mud hut somewhere in like Taos, New Mexico, because it's just, that's the vibes, you know, that's earthy tones that I love. So you're gonna see a lot of that, and you're probably gonna be realizing that, you know, desert everywhere, even when it's probably not needed. But again, one of the thought processes I'm having here is putting some glass there, make it a rain barrier, so that way it can be functional as well as beautiful. I love to mess with these little mud things. What are these called? Like a mud enrichment item for the animals, and I wish that I could with the tortoises make them use it too, because in real life my tortoise loves mud. He goes and they cool down, they actually cover themselves in mud to help with their cooling, because it can get too hot for them, believe it or not, and they also cool down with it. So if it's too hot, it can help them cool and get all that hydration that they want. But I'm just playing around with the rock work here, want to make it look more realistic. And I end up actually changing this later on, I think, behind the cameras, or maybe even what you guys are going to see as far as the next week's episode. I just ended up, it was peeking too far out of the wall in the back, and I didn't like it, but guess what? Jesse didn't look at that right now. Was not paying attention to that in any way, shape, or form. I was just trying to get the aardvarks in here, because again, I don't put any plants in till after the kiddos are in the habitat, to make sure that everything is to their liking. But you guys, if you take a peek at the size of this, it's almost perfect for the two that are in there, but I did not account for the fact that they were gonna have a baby in like 5 minutes after being put in the zoo. Like, how dare they be so prolific? So I ended up making this a little bigger too in the end, but I do like it. I like the circle. I may kind of take this same little blueprint here. I do think that I ended up taking the fences into a blueprint, saving that personally. Oh my gosh, you can totally see the rocks peeking out there. I just wasn't paying attention, I think. I was just like, wow, the habitat looks so good. And then taking that no view, or the one-way view glass, and putting it here just really, it really finalized this build for me. Again, just making sure I've got that education on here, because I never get enough education. That is something I struggle with. And again, planning on adding some more in, who knows how, but just making sure that there are at least 17 different things on each habitat to make my guests more enriched with knowledge. But as always, you guys, we are coming to the end of this episode, so stick around, like, subscribe, follow my channel, and don't forget to press that little bell so you can get notified when I open up new videos, you guys. But thank you so much for joining. I am absolutely stoked to see where I'm gonna take this zoo, and I will be trying my best to do weekly updates. And if you can tell, halfway through this episode, I got a new mic. Trying something new. It was really cheap. Amazon always. It's like 30 bucks, and I definitely feel like I'm hearing a better audio quality. So if I start screaming at you halfway through the video, turn it down. But in actuality, you guys, thank you so much for tuning back into JPEG, where I just play games with you. My name's Jessie, and as always, I'm so happy that you made it this far. Take a peek at Atlas Wildlife Park, you guys. I went ahead and just pressed play for a little bit and let it run, and I made so much money just off of editing our emu, adding in our wallabies, and adding in those aardvarks. I'm very happy, but a little worried about all this like cluster that you see right there with all of the people, and I may have to change up some pathwork later on, but for right now, I'm just happy to see if there are more people really enjoying the wildlife park. That pop-up right there, many guests think the tickets are underpriced, made me so happy. Alright, you guys, let's zoom out and take a peek, and as always, have a wonderful rest of your day.